Hola, CLFSA familia. I'm happy to bring you our first Cafecito, which I hope will be among many. Today, we will be speaking with Carolyn VanIngen-Dunn, who is the director for the Center for Broadening Participation in STEM at ASU. And Carolyn, I would like to thank you for agreeing to participate in our Cafecito series. And why don't we go ahead and get started? So could you please introduce yourself to our community, tell us where you work, what is your job, and what sort of work does your department do?
Yes, thank you very much, Ada. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I'm honored to be the first of your Cafecitos. It's Caroline VanIngen-Dunn, Director of the Center for Broadening Participation in STEM. This is a new name for a steadfast organization. We've been around for several years. We're at Arizona State University, located in the offices at SkySong. We're a mighty 5-person team with one EDD whose research focus demonstrated the positive impact of interrogating and redesigning curriculum to be culturally responsive and creating equitable learning environments for students. 2 of our staff are in the thick of their doctoral programs. Both are focusing on research that pertains to broadening participation in STEM as well. 3 identify as either Hispanic or Indigenous, bringing their lived experiences on how they have had to navigate their careers. And as we just talked a bit ago, it takes some navigating. I'm really proud of my team. As you can tell, they're getting their PhDs and really digging into the meat of who we are and what it is that we do. I come with a couple of engineering degrees and built my STEM education career on the volunteering that I did in classrooms, which was to bring engineering demonstrations to encourage more students, and in those days, especially girls, to pursue engineering. My job is an extension of those early days and my commitment to broadening the participation of all marginalized students in STEM degrees and careers. My goal has been to build a center that focuses on work at the intersection of community colleges, the growing Hispanic population, and STEM education. And we've created a platform here at the center, a platform of projects that allows us to study the impact of our work on broadening participation in STEM. And it serves as a platform to create new research projects, as well as to serve our faculty here at ASU. And it's faculty who want to substantiate their research proposals with sound approaches for their broader impacts and broadening participation plans, which is really a requirement in most NSF proposals and others as well. So our approach has been to build on the success of each of the NSF proposals that we've been awarded in the past. Now, 10 years later, we're able to incorporate all aspects of our successful work into now our most recent and substantial NSF grant, which is, I believe, is what caught your attention, Ada.
Yes, very much. So you just mentioned, in your early phases, presenting and trying to get encouragement from women. And as we know, women and marginalized groups and are underrepresented in the STEM field. And so to you, why is diversity in STEM important? Why should, our marginalized students consider pursuing degrees in this area? And what steps should students take if they're interested in, going forward in careers in STEM?
Yeah, well, the responses that I've prepared address all of this. And regardless of whether you want to pursue a career in STEM, it's very critical that students take and pass foundational math and science courses. Too much of what our world is made of today is founded on STEM. It's not just technicians or engineers or scientists who need to take STEM courses. It's the advertising and marketing staff, authors and grant writers, for example. They need some understanding about STEM to be effective in their jobs and to be able to interpret those technical areas into publicity or grant writing. And you need this foundation to get to the next level of math that's required along the pathway to a traditional STEM career, if that's what you would choose. And of course, I would encourage you to do that. There are efforts at ASU to be intentional about giving students what they need to be successful. For example, there's a college algebra class that go through their math homework online, and teachers can track every student individually and observe their progress. They can identify students who are lagging and meet with them individually to find out what it is that they need support on, and be able to give them the support, coaching, and resources they need without impacting any of the other students. So it becomes what we call a individualized program, but in a much more collective way. So it's very powerful. And I'm really, when I caught wind of what ASU was doing in this space, I was really excited to see how this approach can really be helpful in creating a welcome environment for each individual. So when you ask about how I feel about diversity and why it's important, well, we have a huge opportunity as a country to take advantage of every person here. We can really benefit from their thinking, their ideas, and their innovations that each of us can bring to the table. Take designing for cars, for example, and that's how I started my career, as in the transportation industry. When more women engineers were hired to work on car designs, we could buy cars with a wider range of seat adjustments to fit smaller women. We added more cup holders. We modified airbags so they were less explosive, so as not to break women's arms whose bone structure is not as strong as a larger woman's or a man's. We know that cars that were designed by men were just from a man's perspective, and if they fit them perfectly. So marginalized students really need to consider pursuing disciplines in STEM, because bottom line is we need them. We just plain need them. We need their perspective. We need their ideas. So the work we're doing here at the Center for Broadening Participation in STEM really addresses this point head on. Our center is actively working on diversifying the STEM workforce and increasing the intentionality with which we serve our diverse student population. And we do this by providing faculty and staff, particularly at community colleges, with the resources and training they need to be more intentional about serving their students, and recognizing that they must broaden how they approach students, because not all students learn the same way. So there's also a conscious effort to bring more role models that students can identify with. And if there are none, then those of us who do not look like our students have the responsibility to come with an asset-based mindset and to believe in and encourage our students to be successful in STEM.
That's great. Yeah, I particularly like your example about, designing cars and the input from women in that process. And I think it's a clear example of how, like you said, diverse perspectives bring, different energy to projects, and broaden the accessibility of projects to folks of all different walks of life and things of that nature. So I appreciate that example. So you addressed this question that I was going to ask, but what are you talked about diversifying STEM and the importance of doing that, but what are some areas that you feel are lacking in that diversity, and what are some areas that you think are in need of more diverse representation?
Well, we've made gains in the number of women who are doctors, veterinarians, scientists, and so we're seeing that as a common thing now, even lawyers. Mm-hmm. When it comes to engineering, there are more women in the biomedical and biosystems disciplines than there are in other engineering disciplines. So you can see, in terms from a gender diversity, the women gravitate toward the more humanitarian types of roles. Now, it's not to say that the number of women is equal to the number of men at this point, because it isn't. But right. Certainly the representation of women is increasing. But what we need now is more needs to be done for people of color. All areas of STEM need more people of color. Latinos, African Americans, Native Americans, just to name a few. And it's hard to say where we need more of them, because we just need them in every space. And STEM is so broad, you really can do anything beyond what people perceive as STEM. You just need that foundation in STEM. You just need a foundation in your math and science, just enough to be able to pick up everything else. We don't work without computers anymore. We don't work without looking at data. We have to analyze data. You have to figure things out. I mean, that's pretty much in everything we do.
Right.
So our goal is to just get as many people into STEM as possible.
So my other question is, in speaking with my members, our members, and other people across our community, we have found that many of our students are concerned about social justice and, about working in equitable work environments. And I'm wondering if there is a social justice component to STEM. And are there things in terms of social justice work that they can consider when entering STEM careers?
Yeah, thank you. Well, my answer was yes, absolutely. The only way you can design, build, develop, implement things, processes, systems that are socially just is to have representation of all people in these efforts. So, I mean, that's one way to address social justice is to create inclusive environments. And also what we do is as in these STEM fields is we're the foundation to build social justice. If you think about, just building the technology so that it's socially acceptable and socially welcoming and socially equitable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really a vehicle for social justice. The awareness of social justice comes from the people who are participating in those efforts. So that's why we really have to have that broad base of people involved. Yeah. So it's a catch-22 though, because to get more marginalized people into STEM, you need to have more socially just and more welcoming STEM environments.
Right.
Into the workers. And so what comes first? And you don't get those welcoming environments until you get the people in there. But it's really what our center is focusing on. We know how to work with faculty and staff to help them create these welcoming environments for their students.
Which is great.
It's not an easy thing. It's a possible thing, but it's really difficult to get out of a self, from your lived experience to, and everybody has that. So it's just a matter of really coming to accept that one approach isn't the only approach to manage a classroom or education.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And that's one of my, follow-up questions is in our discussions with our students and our members, a lot of our students that are in engineering kinds of degree programs or STEM programs, particularly our Latino students, our, DACA students, they've, sometimes not felt particularly welcome in those spaces. And, so I'm interested in ways of creating inclusive climates for those students. And it sounds like much of the work you're doing is working towards trying to build that sense of inclusivity and, kind of helping people that might not necessarily know how to interact with different student populations, helping them, begin to look at that a little bit more closely. So yeah, what are some ways that we can create a climate of inclusivity for our students that are interested in pursuing these fields?
Well, that's really what our new grant is all about, and our new grant builds on all these projects. Can I dig into that aspect of it? And
sure, yeah. Like I was going to ask you about that as well. Like, so just to give our viewers a bit of a background, your department recently secured a $10 million grant from the National Science Foundation to increase Latino representation in STEM and STEM degrees and careers. So yeah, as part of this question, if you can incorporate, some information about that into this as well, that would be great.
Yeah, it's very much a part of what we do with this grant. And this grant is built on the 10 years of work that we've done to date. And it speaks directly to your question about how do we create these inclusive environments, and how do we really support every student in a successful pathway to getting a STEM degree and moving into a STEM career. I'm thrilled about this opportunity to take on this grant, and it's funded by the NSF Includes Alliance program. National Science Foundation is really determined to get more people into STEM, and so they call this Includes is the name of the program, and it's an acronym for something about being inclusive.
Mhm.
And ours is the All Rise Alliance, and that's an acronym as well. All Rise stands for Accelerating Latinx Representation in STEM Education.
Okay.
And we're one of 11 national alliances now funded by NSF to address this broadening participation challenge, really. It's an opportunity we have to address it. And we're focusing particularly on Latinx representation in STEM. And our goal is to build a national network of local and regional Hispanic serving institution educators and partners across the 2- and 4-year sectors of higher education, industry, and communities. And what's the crux of our work, and this is going to answer the first question that you had, the crux of our work is to build this collaboration with all the pieces needed to provide culturally responsive experiential learning for students. So we know that experiential learning is a great way to get students excited about STEM. And what I mean by experiential learning, it means either you're doing an undergraduate research experience or in the community college space. We know those students typically are working, have families, and have, non-traditional approaches to education. So we want to bring those experiences into the classroom so we can work with teachers to create what we call classroom-based undergraduate research experiences. That should say CURES, and culturally classroom-based undergraduate research experiences. That's CURES. Okay. And so that's what we're focusing on in this as one area for this grant. But it's all about not just doing the experiential learning, but giving the teachers, the faculty, and the staff the tools to offer them in a culturally responsive way.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've designed this designed our alliance as a collaborative change framework that addresses what we hope will be a persistent, that'll address the persistent underrepresentation of Latinx students in STEM, which is why we're talking today, because we know there's an underrepresentation of Latinx students in STEM. We're doing this really as a research project. For one thing, we're assessing the institutional level, the regional level, and the alliance level data. And we'll use this data to do continuous improvement, generation and evaluation of continuous improvement, which is key because we really want to be able to address what we find doesn't work, improve what we find does work, and really focus on culturally responsive undergraduate research experiences, but also undergraduate work-based experiences. So it's not just research, but also work-based. So we have a wonderful set of partners. Undergraduate research experience there's a plethora of programs and activities across the country, and we're convening them into a subgroup. So we'll partner with these people that deliver these experiences, and we can give key access to the 25 community colleges. Well, they're all Hispanic serving institutions, and some are 4-year institutions, most are 2-year institutions, and provide their faculty and staff access to these resources, as well as to the companies that we're working with through technology councils across the country, helping them build work-based experiences for the students to participate in. Could be a project idea from a company that a classroom can work on together, or groups of students can work on together. But to go back to your question, what we're providing, though, we're not just handing this over, we have another subgroup that's what we call our HSI Identity and Inclusivity Group. We have subject matter experts in there that are designing the training and the workshops to present to, first of all, the management team of the All Rise Alliance. So we as management, the management group, have a understanding of what it is we're asking everybody else to do. And we have 4 regions across the country comprised of between 6 and 9 HSIs. And each of those institutions will have a 10-person faculty staff STEM team.
Wow.
That's where we get down to the instructors, those that engage with the students, and we'll be providing them with training workshops on cultural responsive activities, on developing a STEM plan that's culturally responsive. What do they need to do to get leadership buy-in, to just really address the barriers that students face and even faculty face, in terms of creating an inclusive environment and a welcoming environment. So we're in the process right now of building these tools, building this training, these workshops, and also just in the process of them form their teams. So pretty soon we'll be able to get where the rubber meets the road and connecting all the pieces together so we can actually, get these teams, these STEM teams of the faculty and staff to move forward with their students, get access to these research experiences and deliver in a welcoming and a way. So we're taking what we know, experimenting is a great way to engage students in STEM, and we're taking an approach to make sure that it's delivered in a welcoming and inclusive environment.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Yeah, no, that is really wonderful. And I'm gonna, my background is in curriculum and instructional design. And, I more and more across my field, people are looking to create diverse curriculum and, incorporate diversity within the curriculum is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that you're taking such an in-depth approach towards incorporating these concepts and this important the important aspect of acknowledging the cultural knowledge that Latino culture and other marginalized communities bring to the table already, and you're incorporating that into the learning process, I think is absolutely fabulous. And the partnership that's going on between you and the other Hispanic serving institutions across the country to bring together this like collaborative approach to looking at these things and addressing these areas of concern is really, really wonderful. And I'm glad to hear that that work is happening, at least somewhere. So that's great.
Well, it is. It really is. And I really appreciate that because it's, the concept of came through, like I said, just building a building blocks of what we've worked on over the past. But by creating this alliance and these connections really is exciting for the partners that are joining, because I've got a researcher and evaluator on this team who are so excited to have this platform to do this research on, for them to grow their understanding of the space and build on their own research. So they've come with a whole lot of experience and expertise about what it is we can do and how we can do it. So we have a strong research component, but the whole idea of this model is, and that NSF wants is research is great and important because that's what NSF does. But what we want is systemic change. That's what NSF wants out of this, is systemic change, which is why we have this continuous improvement cycle incorporated into our concept.
I love that. And checking and rechecking.
We're checking and we're working with faculty and staff at their level of where their rubber meets the road, so that they can build, and we'll desirably be with them over 5 years. But we know that things change, and what I'm asking for is that the teams continue to exist, but not necessarily with every single same member throughout. Because the more people we can get into those teams and get the flavor of what it is we're offering, hopefully they'll see that it's supporting what they're doing and not adding on to what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
That's the key right now, is really getting them on board, thinking, yay, this is going to help me maybe minimize some of my stresses, rather than, oh gosh, another thing I have to do.
Yeah.
So we have great support to do that, but that's the process that we're in right now, is to get that buy-in. And the idea is that it becomes ingrained in their behavior as instructors and faculty, and therefore creating that environment, and hopefully that's sustainable. So really that's our goal, is to create the systemic shift in how we support our Latinx students in these STEM areas.
I love that. And I definitely love the piece that you mentioned about the reevaluation piece, where it's not like we're putting this together and it's done. It's that reassessment of where we are in terms of the process and what things we can do to improve, what things are working, what's not working, that active cycle of engagement and re-engagement in terms of the research, I think is absolutely essential. And it's wonderful that that's incorporated into your work.
Yeah, thank you. I just feel like we have an opportunity to just learn and breed new stuff, new great things to really happen. And the people that are working, together with us on this project, the 5 of us, I think are really excited to have this opportunity, and especially these soon to be PhDs, their work coincides with their research. It's really exciting.
It is exciting. I'm in a doctoral program right now, so I completely understand the value of being able to do all of that. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
But when it comes to right down to pinpointing what ASU students can do, one of our co-PIs is Dr. Shelley Hadel, and she runs the School of Life Sciences undergraduate research program here at ASU.
Okay.
And she's great and brings a lot of insight to our project, and she's taking in so much of what we're offering as well. Mm-hmm. And she's encouraging her faculty and her teams to create these inclusive environments and to really pay attention to what it means to have a good space. So I would encourage students to apply for this program. It's SOLUR, SOLUR, School of Life Sciences undergraduate research. Yeah.
If you could send me that information, I will, put it in our newsletter or send it out via our Noticia server to our community so they're aware.
Great. Okay, good.
Yeah. So, I would like to thank you so much for your willingness to participate in our series. You've given us some very useful information, and I'm excited about the work that you're doing with your organization, and I find it encouraging for our students, and I think it's wonderful. So if people would like to contact you, or if they're interested in learning more about your work, how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, thank you, because I do have a very specific offer that I can make to faculty, and I'll give you my email address here in a second, because not only do we have funding to design and develop these culturally responsive training opportunities, but we're also available to faculty, who want to incorporate our expertise into their own broader impacts and broadening participation components for their proposals.
Love it.
And this stuff requires, broader impacts and broadening participation, and we can really be helpful in helping them design their plans around those particular areas. So we've had several faculty reach out to us already, and I want to make invite others to do the same. When it comes time to putting their proposals together, we can assess what they're doing and give them some sound ideas of how they can develop those plans and incorporate our team into their proposal for those particular broadening participation needs.
Great.
So I can my email is C for Caroline, and then my last name, VanInge, it stops before it's over, at asu.edu. Great. And that's probably the best place to start. We're also on our website is STEM Center at asu.edu.
Great. Okay, great. So yes, send me that information as well. I'm sure that, people can write it down as they're viewing, but I'll send that out as well to our community so that they have it. Once again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with me today. And I am sure many people will be getting in contact with you, because this is exciting work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the opportunity a lot. Thank you so much, Ada.